So where do you fit into the grand economic vision here? This is going to be a rebranding of cabinet and a reset of the agenda.
Well, listen, we have a lot to deliver. For me, you know me, I feel re-energized, I would say, this morning with this new economic team. We have a lot to deliver. It's all about affordability. It's about bringing investments in Canada. It's about growth. You know, Canadians wants to see that. It's all about jobs. And you know me, you know, we've been attracting record level of investments, and we'll see more. So today this is about, you know, bringing the new colleagues. We have a stronger economic team. We're going to be delivering together, and I think this is all about Canadians. You know, who win today is Canadians, because Canadians want us to work for them, to deliver, and to show results, and this is what this team is capable of.
Je voudrais vous entendre en français sur le nouveau souffle réénergisé. Parlez-nous de ça.
Ben écoutez, moi mes batteries sont rechargées, mais là c'est pas juste ça, là c'est toute l'équipe. On est énergisé de voir ça aujourd'hui. Comme je disais, c'est les Canadiens qui gagnent, les Canadiennes aujourd'hui, parce qu'il y a une nouvelle équipe économique qui est bonifiée. Alors là, le focus, c'est évidemment les questions d'abordabilité, la croissance économique, s'assurer que le Canada prenne les opportunités générationnelles qu'on a devant nous déjà. Vous savez, on a amené des investissements qui vont avoir un impact sur des décennies. Alors aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment les grands gagnants de tout ça, c'est les Canadiens aujourd'hui, parce que c'est eux qui gagnent aujourd'hui. On a une équipe renforcée, une équipe qui va être focalisée. On parle d'opportunités, on parle de développement économique, on parle de croissance. C'est une bonne journée pour le Canada. Merci. Merci à tout le monde.
Will your role change at all with energy?
Well, obviously, the whole conversation around energy is a different conversation than 30 years ago. Energy is much broader. It relates to wind turbines and solar panels and geothermal and hydroelectric and small modular reactors, as well as the conventional oil and gas sector. And I think this connotes that we're moving into a phase where energy is extremely important going forward to fight climate change, but also build an economy that will thrive in a low-carbon future. And that emphasis is important. In the same way that when we changed environment to say environment and climate change, that meant something. This means something.
Are you glad that you stay the same with Guilbeault, also the same tandem, pretty much?
Yeah, Stephen and I are partners. We have different areas of responsibility, but we work in partnership on all of these issues relating to climate and to energy and to the economy. And I was the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. I know his job. He's been a very good partner for me in this job.
Stability was important for that portfolio?
I think stability is extremely important. This is the heart of many of the most fundamental issues we are facing in Canada, which is the nexus between climate change and energy policy. And he and I work very well together. So, thank you. Yes.
What will change in your portfolio exactly? With the promotion, I think?
No, everything's exactly the same.
Okay.
And we're adding small business with a minister dedicated to doing that domestically on her own, alongside the rest of us. So, stay the same.
Is it all the same for you?
Oui, c'est ça, oui.
Bonjour.
J'ai été
Alors, je vais
sur
avoir
une réunion
besoin
avec lui.
d'une perche, avant que ce micro-là ne fonctionne. Donc, j'aimerais que vous m'ameniez dans votre tête et dans votre cœur aujourd'hui. Vous accédez au cabinet, c'est quand même un grand échelon à prétendre fort. Parlez-nous de ça.
Bien, la première chose que je vais vous dire, c'est la symbolique pour moi est vraiment importante parce que moi, je suis une réfugiée politique. Moi, je suis arrivée ici, j'avais 8 ans. C'est le père du premier ministre qui a fait venir les premiers Chiliens au Canada. Et aujourd'hui, c'est son fils qui nomme la première Chilienne ministre au cabinet. Donc, il y a comme une symbolique très importante pour moi comme Chilienne, comme femme latino-américaine. Puis je suis prête à servir, puis vraiment contente de pouvoir accéder au cabinet.
Parlez-nous des émotions que vous avez vécues aujourd'hui.
Ben, très émotive, beaucoup d'émotions parce que j'étais accompagnée de ma mère, qui est une femme extraordinaire, c'est une femme monoparentale qui a quitté un pays qu'elle ne voulait pas quitter, qui devait être professeure, mais qui a été une couturière toute sa vie ici pour survivre. Puis aujourd'hui, de voir sa fille qui accède à un cabinet, un pays du G7, vous comprenez l'émotion juste personnelle qu'on vit.
What do you see as your role in terms of developing the economy?
Well, you know, I think we have to make sure that all companies and all SMEs across the country will be able to tackle the challenge of the green economy and sustainable development, and that's what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. So with your experience in immigration, do you have a plan to tackle the issue with homeless refugees in Toronto?
Well, look, we had an announcement just last week with a $212 million contribution to help offset the costs of housing for asylum seekers in Toronto. I think it's important when we deal with people who come to this country that we treat them with respect and dignity. Of course, those who come through official programs have support directly from the federal government that will continue to provide for people we select to come through our refugee programs, but we're going to work with partners at different levels of government to help take care of some of the world's most vulnerable people, including asylum seekers. But the project before me now is much broader than any one particular group. Everybody in Canada needs housing.
housing, Minister?
Look, it depends what fixing housing means. It's not the same answer to everybody. I think we're going to be able to achieve meaningful progress and hopefully quickly to help ensure more Canadians have a roof over their head and more people who are having trouble getting into the market can think about a place they might be able to own for themselves, can think about being able to afford rent so they can continue to work and live in the communities that they call home. It's not easy, but it's a job worth doing.
New housing starts to struggling though, so how are you going to change that? How are you going to influence policy that'll get more houses made?
There's no silver bullet here. We need to look at all the different policy levers we have, and we need to look at the incentives we can create to trigger communities to use the policy levers that they hold. I'm thinking about a program like the Housing Accelerator Program. This fund, $4 billion, is going to help communities make changes to the ways that they build homes, whether that's through modernizing their permitting process or actually getting the homes built with the help of a direct subsidy from the federal government through different programs. We need to look at both those direct cash contributions to housing projects, but also the incentives that are going to inspire people who hold the controls for some of these on-the-ground decisions to really take advantage of the moment that we live in and recognize that we got to do something to make sure that every family in this country goes to bed with a roof over their head. I don't think it's out of the question that we can help solve this challenge, and hopefully I'm the person to help do it. Excellent. Thanks, everyone.
So when can we expect something permanent or solid on this public inquiry?
So I was surprised to see Mr. Poilievre fabricate once again a series of accusations coming from the guy who was minister responsible for democratic institutions for 2 years after CSIS identified this growing problem, and he did absolutely nothing. So Mr. Poilievre keeps making up a series of facts. Our government is the first government that actually put in place a series of measures to counter foreign interference in the democratic institution space. In terms, again, of the idea that we're delaying the work on the next steps following Mr. Johnson's report, I would think he should talk to his House Leader, who has been engaged with me collaboratively, constructively, in conversations that are advancing, we think, in a very encouraging way. We had a meeting as recently as yesterday and hoping to have another one by the end of the week. So Mr. Poilievre has simply made up a series of allegations. He's good at that, but on an issue this important to Canadians, we think he should have perhaps taken a different tone. Mais il n'y a pas de ralenti. Il n'y a pas de ralenti. On travaille ensemble, on fait du progrès important ensemble. Ça fait des semaines, monsieur le ministre. Ben c'est ça, parce que c'est compliqué de se mettre d'accord sur un cadre pour une éventuelle enquête était important. On a fait des avances importantes dans ce domaine-là. Trouver là où les personnes à présider ce genre d'exercice-là, de le faire ça conjointement avec 3 partis d'opposition est un travail important. On fait des avancées substantielles sur une base collaborative. M. Poilievre a complètement inventé une série de faits. Si M. Poilievre croit qu'il y a un retard, il devrait peut-être parler à son leader parlementaire. Je pense qu'il ne sera pas d'accord avec lui. J'étais sur une réunion avec lui aussi récemment que hier. On a une autre réunion qui s'en vient. Alors, M. Poilievre a une certaine responsabilité, je crois, dans un domaine aussi important que la protection de la démocratie, de ne pas fabriquer des faits. Et je note bien que M. Poilievre était lui-même responsable des institutions démocratiques en 2013, quand les services de renseignement ont identifié la menace de cette ingérence, et ils ont fait absolument rien quand ils disaient au gouvernement, puis c'est le bilan contraire de ce que nous avons fait. Merci beaucoup.
Minister Gould.
Yes.
House Leader.
Yes.
What are you going to bring to the role that other House Leaders have not?
Well, I think I'm going to continue a lot of what previous House leaders have done. But, you know, I think one thing that I'm going to focus on is calm, right? I think that there was a high degree of intensity and animosity, and I think one of the things that I bring to the role is an ability to bring that tone back down. But that's something that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to continuing to work collaboratively and collegially with counterparts from the opposition parties, and of course continuing on the excellent work of Minister Holland in bringing forward lots of legislation and passing that through the House.
Some of your predecessors have said that in the past. What are you going to do that's different?
Well, I think you've seen me in the House, and my tone is quite calm. It's one of engagement. It's one of trying to work together. And I've developed good relationships on all sides of the House, and so I'm looking forward to carry those on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With the meeting of G20 ministers this weekend and in India, was that something that you
I was not there, but my department was there. So,
what did you think of, I guess, countries not really coming to an agreement on phasing out unabated fossil fuels?
well, I think it's disappointing. We are going to need to continue to work with some members in the G20, in the international community, to move. I mean, look, there has to be a phase out of unabated fossil fuels. That doesn't mean that you're phasing out fossil fuels entirely. There are lots of applications that actually don't require combustion, and there are combustion applications where you can capture the carbon. But at the end of the day, if we're going to meet our climate goals, to which every country is committed in the COP process, we are going to need to phase down the use of unabated fossil fuels.
What seems to be the sticking point of these talks about this?
Well, I think some countries have moved more quickly than others in terms of mapping out how you make reductions that are required and how you make technology changes that are required. It's not simple. Even in Canada, it's far from simple. But I would say some have not made as much progress, and perhaps it is incumbent on Europe and Canada and the United States, who are a bit farther ahead, to help these folks understand the pathways through which they can actually get there.
And when we talk about this, like, what is the target we're looking at? How much of a phase out, and when are countries like Canada proposing we would do this phase out?
Well, I guess I would go back to what the commitments are under the Paris Agreement, right? So all of the developed world has committed effectively to phase out or to achieve net zero by 2050. That's net zero. So there will be some residual emissions in some applications where it's very difficult to get at those, but you've got to actually net those out through negative emissions technologies or nature-based solutions like planting trees. China has committed to 2060 and India has committed to 2070. But in all of those cases, you have to phase out, by and large, the combustion of, or the use of unabated fossil fuels in combustion applications by the time you get to 2050. And that may be a little bit longer for some countries that require a slightly longer runway. So in Canada, we need to see the phase out of unabated fossil fuel combustion uses by 2050, and in some cases they need to happen sooner.
So what would be our 2030 target?
Well, look, I mean, the best example of that is the electricity network. The focus of the clean electricity regulation, when it comes forward, will be on getting to a net zero grid by 2035, similar to what the Americans have announced with the regulations by the Environmental Protection Agency. And that essentially, to get there, requires that you actually either have non-emitting sources of generation, be that renewables or hydro or nuclear, or that you're abating them, like what Capital Power is endeavoring to do just outside of Edmonton with a gas plant. So.
And just finally, because I know you have to go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Just what do we mean by unabatement? Like, can you say that you would go with the IPCC definition that 90% of the emissions would be, sucked out?
Well, I think that's the minimum. I think eventually we will want to see higher levels of abatement, at least from the combustion process. As you think about natural gas, for example, there are emissions associated with the extraction, and those need to go down to near zero. And then there are emissions associated with the combustion of fossil fuels. When we talk about abatement, we're usually talking about combustion and the capture of carbon that comes off of the combustion process. I think 90% is a minimum. There are technologies out there that can do better than that. We will need to see them in commercial operation at large scale. But I think we eventually will want to be seeing 95% plus.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Your job doesn't change, but are you sitting there?
I'm re-energized. You know me. It's all about energy.
So
now we have a great economic team. We're boosting the economic team. It's just about turbocharging what we've been doing. That's what we're doing, and I think you saw the walk today said a lot. You know, we're united, we're strong, and it's, for me, it's about turbocharging the team now because we need to deliver for Canadians. The winners today are Canadians because this is a team that, and the Prime Minister is very clear, every morning, every day, people have to think, what can we do to help Canadians? You know, we all know people are struggling, whether you go in city centers, in rural community, affordability is top of mind, the price of about everything. At the same time, they want jobs and they want growth. That's why my job is to bring investments, to make sure, you saw in the TTC, you know, making sure people will have access to cell phone coverage when they take subway. 3 million people are affected. You know, our job is to deal with real problems that people are facing. So that's why I'm super energized. You know, I don't lack energy, but today is even more energy.
Okay.
I'll see you. Thank you. Merci tout le monde. Merci. Do you want to talk about your priorities coming out of this new cabinet, Champagne?
Our priorities are the economy, the economy, the economy. I think the Prime Minister has been very clear. We're very, very focused on delivering for Canadians. Merci beaucoup.